Good morning again, it's Richard. It's Saturday the 13th of June 2009. As I said earlier on, what I've done, I wanted to make up basically a clear plate here. Get a better shot of this for you. A clear plate that goes over the bell housing. It's only a piece of plastic, and you see I've obviously suffered a crack in it here. The idea being just to allow me to sort of get a basic idea of the size of the plate that I'll be needing. And it also allowed me to sort of get a good view at these bolts here, or the holes here, that were blind ones. Obviously I can't see them from the other side that easily, particularly that one, which is completely blind. That one's not too bad. Just to give me an idea where these holes were. Measured to cut this out of a piece of plastic about 15 inches square. I'm going to try and go over that 1/4 inch plate. Yeah, that's not going out too bad. Obviously I cut a hole in the middle here just to give me an idea how big I'm going to need for my coupler between the two. So yeah, that's not coming out too bad at the moment. I wish it was only take that long to make the real one, but I think it's going to take a bit longer to make, unfortunately. Obviously just cut around a little bit for the drive shaft here. So yeah, hopefully get a bit of metal for that. What I've also done since the last video a few hours ago is I've weighed the engine that's coming out, which is the Rover one over here. It weighs about 100 kilograms, which is about what I expected. Just trying to get a basic idea of how much weight I'm losing and what's going in. I just use a cheap set of bathroom scales from my local Tesco's, and also just weighed the radiator, pipes, air filter, starter motor, washer bottle, that sort of stuff, or header bottle, and that's about another sort of 17 kilograms. So once I get the rest of the exhaust off and the fuel tank and a few other bits and pieces, I can work out how much we've lost. So I can probably work out eventually when all the stuff goes in how much heavy it's all going to be. Hopefully not that much. I'm going to try and keep the weight between the wheels if I can, to make it a reasonably good centre of gravity rather than hanging anything out over the front or back of the wheels. Haven't yet weighed the motor. It's definitely a heavy old beast. It's definitely a two-man lift, or you can put your back out. As you can see, it's got a plate already on the bottom here. That was mounted to the forklift plate on already. Not quite sure what I'm going to do yet. As I said, I think I'm going to put an L-shaped plate on the bell housing. I know I can only go about 2 inches, so that's probably about the gap you'll see between my motor and bell housing will be about that distance there, so about 2.5 inches. With obviously, as I said, a couple of stabilisers sort of coming down up here to the bell housing, which will be that sort of angle, like that. What I'm going to try and do is to leave myself a bit of adjustment, because though I'll be able to work out the height of this shaft with the height of the gearbox shaft, obviously the to and fro bit will be quite difficult to line up. So I'm just trying to get an idea of how I'm going to do that at the moment. I want to try and make a plate, basically make an adjustment if I can between this plate and the plate that it mounts onto. Obviously this plate isn't long enough anyway because it needs to extend out at least to there. So I'm going to put another plate on the bottom and mount the two together and see what I can rig out as far as adjustments are concerned. I haven't got any dead accurate measuring devices, so a lot of it is just by eye, and then running this motor at slow speed, sort of see how it sounds with the gearbox coupled up to it. There's a little bit of play in this. Was sort of reading some ideas about whether these need to have a bearing in them or not to sort of support some of the weight. And obviously the shorter it'll be the better, I suppose, less deflection. But hopefully once that's on the gearbox, obviously there's no support this end at the moment, it'll be quite good. That's obviously the end where the pump used to be. Obviously the original fixing, so I was considering whether I could use part of the pump to sort of hold this. But again, I haven't got a lathe or anything like that, so just trying to see what I can do myself really. I might get another one of these made up as well with the end result, obviously that bit machine on the end, and obviously get another clutch plate to get the centre out of it. Yeah, so what I'll do now, I think I'll do a bit of a tie up over here, put the engine or some bits and pieces away, maybe push the car out as it's not a bad day today, and see if I can get any of the fuel pipes off and the fuel tank out. Can't really do much more until I get the mounting. I've basically want to get the motor back in again and running to make sure it's going to be successful before I sort of spend too much money on other things like the batteries and metal to make the battery boxes and obviously start thinking about a wiring system. I've got the original wiring system out to forklifts to play with, which should give me all the contactors and such like that I need, and hoping just have to get a few odds and sods that I can. Still a few things to come out. I've got a fuel filter got to come out here. Obviously that's part of the brakes, that's got to stay. One of the other things I was considering, looking at it when I had the gearbox in, is whether or not I could mount the alternator or any alternator I've got to what effectively would be in front of the gearbox. And that shaft I want to get made up is actually try and put a basically a pulley on there that I can run the alternator off of. So if I mount the alternator at the front of the gearbox, 3-inch gap between motor and bell housing, where I can actually put a belt, either be an emergency belt that you can put together, cut and put together, or a Bremer belt that you can actually lengthen or shorten, where I can actually run the alternator off of here, thereby saving obviously the amount of buying a DC to DC converter. Then my mind started racing about whether I could actually run the power steering pump the same way, but I don't want to drag obviously too much power out of the batteries. So I have already got a electric power steering pump that I've sorted out already, so that'll probably be the initial idea for that. Obviously still got the original reservoir for it over there, and the pipes that have just been blocked up. So yeah, I'll get on a bit more work, and hopefully sometime during the week I'll sort out a bit of metal plate. And now I've got some measurements, and I've obviously got my example to take along with me, and see what I can do over the next few days. Bye for now.